Every time you explain yourself, you lose. Not because your reasoning is flawed, because the act of explaining is a confession that you require their understanding to exist. The most dangerous individuals in any room are never the loudest. They are the ones whose silence makes the room recalibrate itself around them. Power is not demonstrated, power is withheld, and most of you are hemorrhaging it by the second. Think about what you did today. You replied the moment the message arrived. You clarified your position when someone questioned it. You posted something, anything, because the silence felt unbearable. You checked to see who viewed it. You waited. This is not connection. This is a slow, systematic dismantling of your own authority. Every response you rush, every explanation you volunteer, every time you make yourself reachable at a moment's notice, you are training the people around you to see you as a utility, a resource, something to be accessed and consumed on demand. And utilities do not command fear, they command dependency, which evaporates the instant something more convenient appears. You believe you are building relationships through availability. You are not. You are building a cage and handing others the key. The masses have been conditioned to read silence as weakness, but that conditioning was designed by the same system that benefits from keeping you visible, predictable, and therefore controllable. The moment you begin operating without that need for acknowledgement, you stop being readable, and an unreadable force is terrifying. Here is the dark law they never teach you. Human psychology does not worship what it understands. It worships what it cannot consume. The mind obsesses over what resists full comprehension, and the moment you become fully legible to those around you, you lose the only currency that generates genuine power: uncertainty. When others can predict your movements, your reactions, your availability, you become a known quantity. Known quantities are managed, not feared. They are slotted into a hierarchy and kept there. The moment you sever that predictability, something shifts at a level most people cannot consciously articulate. They feel it before they name it. A faint unease, a recalibration, the sudden awareness that they do not actually know where your edges are and that not knowing is dangerous. This is the architecture of absence, not mysterious posturing, not studied aloofness, something far more primal and far more ruthless. When you stop feeding others information about your internal state, your schedule, your emotions, your plans, their minds do not simply register a blank. The human brain abhors a vacuum. It fills the empty space immediately, and it fills it with projection. Whatever they fear most in an opponent, whatever represents immense, unquantifiable authority to them personally, that is what they project onto your silence. You did not create the myth. They built it themselves, using the raw material of their own insecurity and the void you deliberately created. You are not the source of their dread. You are simply the surface onto which they painted. Now understand what follows from that projection. Once the myth is built, every small action you take gets filtered through it. You say very little at a meeting. They read strategic calculation, not boredom. You do not respond to a message for 2 days. They read controlled power, not negligence. You leave an interaction without explaining your reasoning. They do not conclude you had no reason. They conclude your reason is something they are not yet authorized to know. The scarcity of your presence creates an involuntary upward revision of your perceived rank. This is not a social trick. This is a fundamental law of how human hierarchies process information gaps. Absence, when deployed without apology, breeds as elevation. Imagine you've been running in the same professional circle for years, the kind of environment where everyone knows everyone's business, where constant availability is dressed up as collaboration and transparency is rewarded with the illusion of belonging. There's a figure in that world. Call him the one who stopped explaining. He used to be like you, responsive, eager, always in the thread, always with a take. Then at some point, something changed. He pulled back, not dramatically. No announcement, No social media detox post, no proclamation. He simply became harder to reach. His calendar developed gaps no one could account for. His opinions became rare, and therefore, when offered, final. The room still talked about him constantly. He just stopped being in it. And here is what you noticed. The ones who talked about him the most were the ones who feared him the most. Their obsession was not curiosity. It was the primal anxiety of something they could no longer measure. They couldn't predict him. They couldn't locate his ceiling. And so, consciously or not, they stopped testing him. Not because he was kind, not because he was liked, because the cost of being wrong about him was one they were unwilling to calculate. That is, threat recalibration, and it happens entirely without confrontation. It happens in the minds of your opponents while you are absent from the room. This is why every system built to keep people visible is ultimately built to keep them controllable. Social media metrics, constant digital availability, the culture of transparency and oversharing, none of this serves you. All of it serves the apparatus that benefits from knowing exactly who you are, what you want, what you fear, and what you will accept. The masses perform visibility for the approval of other masses and mistake the noise for a signal of importance. It is not. Volume is not authority. Frequency is not dominance. The quiet one who rarely speaks and never over-explains holds a structural advantage the loudest voice in the room cannot touch, because no one can locate their boundaries, and what cannot be located cannot be strategically attacked. Radical inaccessibility is not passivity. It is the most active psychological weapon available to you. It requires discipline so absolute that most will mistake it for indifference, and that mistake is precisely the point. Every time you resist the urge to clarify, to respond immediately, to make yourself easy, you are depositing into an account they cannot audit. The balance grows without their knowledge. The interest compounds in their imagination. So here is the directive. Starting now, you stop making yourself readable on someone else's timeline. You do not respond to non-essential contact within the first available moment. You do not offer the reasoning behind your decisions unless the operational stakes are absolute. You do not post, explain, or perform your current state for external consumption. This is not a gradual adjustment. It is a full stop. Every piece of information you voluntarily surrender is a reduction in the asymmetry that protects you. Asymmetry is your armor. The moment they know as much about your interior as you do about theirs, the leverage disappears entirely, and leverage is the only thing that keeps the weak from assuming they can afford to test you. Let the silence be permanent. Let the void be total. Let them fill it with whatever terrifies them most, because what they build in that emptiness will be larger and more formidable than anything you could construct yourself. There is one more weapon in this architecture that most will never locate. It concerns not how you vanish, but what you control in others the moment you return. That is a different lesson. Find it.